The emergency sirens echoed through the crystal halls of the Galactic Council station. Ambassador Zethara pressed her six-fingered hand against the cold wall and tried to steady her breathing. In her 400 years of life, she had never seen the Council in such panic. Through the massive viewing ports, she could see the remains of the Third Fleet drifting in space. Twisted metal and organic matter floated where once proud ships had sailed between the stars. The Catherian vessels looked like broken toys compared to what had destroyed them. "How many survivors?" asked Council Leader Vexron, his blue skin turning pale as he read the reports. 43 ships out of 3,000, replied General Kostar. The old warrior's voice cracked as he spoke. The Vorthak swarm consumed the rest. Zethara closed her eyes. 3,000 ships, 3,000 crews, all gone in less than 6 hours. The Vorthak swarm had appeared from the dark space between galaxies 3 months ago. At first, the Council thought they were dealing with another pirate fleet. Pirates they could handle. Pirates were predictable. But the Vorthak were not pirates. They were something far worse. "Show me the tactical analysis again," Vexron ordered. The hologram in the center of the chamber lit up. It displayed a Vorthak vessel, if you could call it that. The thing looked more like a giant insect than a spaceship. Its hull was black and seemed to shift like living skin. Tentacles writhed from its sides, each one ending in weapons that the Council's best scientists could not understand. "They adapt," General Kostar explained, his voice tired. "Every weapon we use against them, they learn to resist. Our plasma cannons work the first time. Then their ships grow new armor. Our quantum missiles hit their targets once. Then they develop new defenses." "What about our newest energy weapons?" asked Ambassador Thealara from the Nexus Collective. "Useless after the second battle," Kostar replied. "They consumed one of our destroyers. Absorbed it completely. Then their ships started using our own technology against us." The room fell silent. 7 different alien species sat around the Council table. And for the first time in galactic history, they all looked defeated. 3 star systems, Vexron said quietly. 3 entire star systems consumed. Billions dead. Zethara had seen the reports. The Vorthak did not just destroy planets. They ate them, slowly, piece by piece, taking everything, the resources, the technology, the people. Even the information stored in computer systems somehow became part of their collective knowledge. "They are heading toward the Terran sector next," General Kostar announced. "Our projections show they will reach the outer colonies within 2 weeks. Then we evacuate," suggested Ambassador Yilmoth. "Pull back our fleets and civilian populations." "To where?" Kostar snapped. "They move faster than our evacuation ships. They adapt to our retreat routes. Every time we run, they get stronger." The argument that followed was loud and desperate. Some Council members wanted to surrender. Others suggested fleeing to another galaxy. A few spoke of making a final stand at the Council homeworld. Zethara listened to her colleagues shout at each other and felt something break inside her chest. The Great Galactic Council, rulers of 1,000 worlds, reduced to this, fear and anger, and no real solutions. "What about the humans?" she said quietly. The shouting stopped. Every alien head turned to look at her. "The humans?" Vexron asked, his voice confused. "What about them?" "They have a military," Zethara continued. "Ships, weapons." Ambassador Thealara laughed, but it sounded bitter. "The primitives from the Sol system? They still use kinetic weapons. Bullets and missiles. How crude. Crude weapons that work," Zethara pointed out. "When was the last time anyone attacked a human ship and won?" The Council members looked at each other. The truth was that nobody had tried to attack human ships in decades, not because humans were respected, but because they were ignored. Their technology seemed so backward that most species simply avoided them. "They have what, maybe 100 ships?" General Kostar said dismissively. "We lost 3,000 vessels to the swarm. Do we know how many ships they have?" Zethara asked. Silence. Do we know anything about their actual military capabilities? She pressed. More silence. The humans had made contact with the galactic community 50 years ago. They had seemed friendly enough, eager to trade and learn. But they had also seemed so far behind everyone else in technology that most species treated them like amusing children. Their ships are made of metal and ceramic, Ambassador Yilmoth said. No energy shields. No quantum drives. No adaptive AI systems. And yet, Zethara said, human traders go everywhere in the galaxy. Human colonies exist on worlds we consider too dangerous. Human mining operations work in asteroid fields, where our automated systems fail. She stood up and walked to the viewing port. In the distance, she could see a small human cargo ship docking with the station. It looked bulky and ugly compared to the sleek alien vessels around it, but it was there, working, while the beautiful Catherian fleet was space debris. We have tried everything else, she said without turning around. Our best weapons, our smartest tactics, our most advanced technology. All failures. She faced the council again. Maybe it is time to try something primitive. You want to ask the humans for help? Vexron asked, his voice full of disbelief. What choice do we have? Zethara replied. Die proud. Or, live humble. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some council members called the idea madness. Others worried about what humans might want in return. A few questioned whether humans would even respond to such a request. But as the arguments continued, reports kept coming in. The Vorthak swarm was moving faster than predicted. They had consumed another outer colony. Their numbers were growing. Finally, Vexron called for silence. All those in favor of requesting human assistance? He asked. 7 hands rose slowly. 7 species that ruled the galaxy, asking for help from the primitives they had ignored for 50 years. Very well, Vexron said. Ambassador Zethara, draft the message. Zethara nodded and moved to the communication console. She stared at the blank screen for a long moment, trying to find the right words. How do you ask for help from someone you have treated as inferior? How do you admit that all your advanced technology has failed? In the end, she kept it simple. To the government of Earth and her colonies. The Galactic Council faces an existential threat that our forces cannot contain. We formally request any assistance the human military might provide against the entity known as the Vorthak Swarm. Time is critical. Please respond immediately. She sent the message and turned back to the council. Now we wait, she said. None of them expected the response that would come. Admiral Sarah Chen was drinking coffee when the message arrived. Real coffee. Not the synthetic stuff most of the galaxy preferred. She sat in her office 300 meters below the surface of Luna, surrounded by screens that showed ship movements throughout human space. Admiral, her aide Lieutenant Morrison said as he entered. Priority message from the Galactic Council. Chen raised an eyebrow. In 50 years of contact, the Council had sent exactly 12 official messages to Earth. Most were trade agreements or boring diplomatic notices. This was the first time they had marked anything as priority. Let me see it, she said. Morrison activated the wall screen. The message appeared in standard galactic script, followed by the computer translation into English. Chen read it twice, then leaned back in her chair. They want our help, she said quietly. Yes, ma'am. Against something called the Vorthak Swarm. Chen pulled up the attached files. Video feeds showed alien ships being torn apart by creatures that looked like living nightmares. Battle reports described weapons that adapted to every defense. Intelligence summaries painted a picture of an enemy that consumed everything in its path. Get me, Admiral Torres, Chen ordered. And wake up the War Council. All of them, ma'am. Every single one. While Morrison made the calls, Chen walked to her private terminal and entered her command codes. The screen that appeared was not connected to any galactic network. It showed information that no alien government had ever seen. Humanity's real military strength. The galaxy thought humans had perhaps 100 ships. They had seen human traders and colony vessels, which looked primitive and crude compared to alien technology. What they had not seen were the yards hidden in asteroid belts and the fleets stationed in dark space between star systems. Chen scrolled through the lists. Battle cruisers disguised as cargo haulers. carriers that appeared to be mining ships, destroyers built inside hollowed-out asteroids, factory ships that could produce weapons while traveling between stars. For 50 years, humanity had let the galaxy think they were backward. It was easier that way. Let the aliens fight each other with their fancy energy weapons and computer-controlled fleets. Let them think humans were too primitive to be a threat. The truth was different. Humans had learned something from their bloody history that the aliens never understood: how to wage total war. Admiral Torres appeared on the screen, calling from the hidden base at Wolf 359. Behind him, Chen could see the massive bulk of the dreadnought unconquered. "Sarah," Torres said, "I saw the message from the Council. Are we really going to help them?" "We are going to respond to their request," Chen replied carefully. "Whether that helps them or not remains to be seen. We are going to respond. To be as..." Chen replies. 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 Within an hour, the War Council was assembled. 12 admirals from across human space, each one commanding fleets that the galaxy did not know existed. Admiral Park from the Asian Coalition, Admiral Okafor from the African Union, Admiral Volkov from the Russian Federation. Old national boundaries that still mattered when it came to military organization. "Show them the tactical data," Chen ordered. The holographic display filled the center of the room. It showed Vorthak ships attacking alien fleets. The council members watched in silence as the creatures adapted to every weapon used against them. "Impressive," Admiral Park commented. "They evolve their defenses in real time. But they are organic," Admiral Volkov pointed out. "Biological systems have limitations." "What kind of limitations?" Chen asked. "They adapt to energy weapons by changing their tissue," Dr. Martinez explained. She was not a military officer, but the leading expert on xenobiology. "But kinetic weapons work differently. A bullet does not care what kind of armor you have. It makes holes." Admiral Torres nodded. "Our ancestors fought with sticks and stones before they had energy weapons. These creatures have never faced that kind of warfare." "Are you suggesting we go back to gunpowder?" Admiral Okafor asked. "I am suggesting we use what we do best," Torres replied. "The aliens fight with elegant weapons and smart tactics. We fight to win." Chen studied the data again. The Vorthak consumed technology and used it against their enemies. They adapted to new weapons quickly. They learned from every battle, but they had never fought humans. "Admiral Kim," Chen said, addressing the youngest member of the council, "how many ships can we deploy within 72 hours? Kim consulted her datapad. "From the ready fleets?" "About 8,000 ships." The other admirals nodded. 8,000 ships was the standard response force, enough to handle most problems without revealing humanity's full strength. "What about if we activate the reserve fleets?" Chen asked. "Full mobilization?" Kim looked surprised. "That would be significant." "How significant?" Kim's fingers moved across her datapad. Numbers appeared on the main screen. The admirals stared at them in silence. 47,000 warships, Kim announced, plus support vessels, cargo haulers, troop transports, and medical ships. Total fleet size would be approximately 96,000 vessels. And construction capacity? If we convert all civilian shipyards to military production, we could add another 20,000 ships per month. Chen nodded slowly. The galaxy thought humans were primitive. They had no idea that every human colony was also a fortress. Every civilian shipyard could build warships. Every cargo vessel could carry weapons. "Admiral Torres," Chen said, "begin Phase 1 mobilization. I want the first battle fleet ready to move within 24 hours. "What are you planning?" "Sarah?" Torres asked. "We are going to respond to the Council's request," Chen replied. "They asked for backup. We will provide backup." "Chen." She turned to the other admirals. "Admiral Park, activate all shipyards in the Asian sector. Admiral Okafor, begin moving supplies from the African reserve depots. Admiral Volkov, I want your heavy ships ready for extended deployment." This is a major operation, Admiral Kim pointed out. The aliens will see our true capabilities. Yes, they will, Chen agreed. It is time. For 50 years, humanity had hidden in plain sight. They had pretended to be a minor species with limited military power. They had traded peacefully and avoided major conflicts. But they had also been preparing for the day when hiding was no longer possible. "Ma'am," Morrison said from the doorway. "The aliens are asking for an estimated response time." Chen looked at the deployment schedules on her screen. Torres could have the first fleet in hyperspace within 18 hours. The second and third fleets would follow within 2 days. After that, the real fleet would begin moving. "Tell the Galactic Council," Chen said, "that backup is acknowledged. Give them coordinates for our fleet emergence." "What coordinates should I provide, ma'am?" Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "The coordinates of their last known Vorthok contact. We are going hunting." As the admirals began issuing orders to their respective fleets, Chen returned to her private terminal. She pulled up the files on human military doctrine. Lessons learned from thousands of years of warfare, strategies developed through centuries of conflict. The aliens fought with honor and precision. They used advanced technology and sophisticated tactics. Humans fought to win. The difference was about to become very clear. Captain Veltar had been sent to observe the human response. As a military attaché from the Galactic Council, his job was to watch what the humans brought and report back. He expected to see perhaps 50 ships, maybe 100 if the humans were feeling generous. He did not expect to see the largest military mobilization in galactic history. The first sign that something unusual was happening came 12 hours after the Council sent their message. Human cargo ships throughout the galaxy suddenly changed course. Trade routes that had been stable for decades were abandoned as merchant vessels headed toward Earth. "They are probably evacuating their civilians," Veltar reported to his superiors. It made sense. A primitive species would naturally want to protect their people before sending their small military to help. Then the shipyards around Luna came alive. Veltar watched through his observation ship's sensors as massive structures emerged from what he had thought were mining stations. Dry docks that had been hidden inside asteroids, construction bays that unfolded like metal flowers, assembly lines that had been disguised as ore processing facilities. "This is impossible," he whispered. Ships began emerging from the hidden yards. Not the crude cargo vessels that aliens were used to seeing, but warships. Massive warships with thick armor plating and weapon batteries that covered their hulls like angry metal thorns. The first ship to fully emerge was over a kilometer long. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, and covered in angular armor plates. Weapon ports dotted its surface like the eyes of some giant predator. As Veltar watched, smaller ships began docking with it. "Classification unknown," his ship's computer announced. "No matching vessel type in galactic databases." More ships followed, sleek destroyers with hulls that seemed to absorb sensor beams, bulky cruisers that carried enough weapons to level a small moon, carriers that disgorged clouds of small craft like angry insects. But it was not just the number of ships that shocked Veltar, it was how they moved. Galactic military doctrine emphasized individual ship performance. Each vessel was a masterpiece of technology, capable of independent operation. Human ships moved differently. They moved together, like parts of a single organism. Destroyer squadrons formed perfect geometric patterns. Cruiser wings moved in synchronized formations that maximized their combined firepower. The massive capital ships advanced in a line that seemed carved from solid steel. "They fight as one mind," Veltar reported, his voice full of awe. "Every ship knows exactly where every other ship will be." On the second day, Veltar realized that what he was seeing was just the beginning. The human ships that emerged from Luna were joined by others. Fleets arriving from directions that supposedly contained only empty space. Veltar checked his star charts repeatedly. But the maps showed nothing where these new ships were coming from. Hidden bases, he realized. They have been building fleets in secret for decades. A massive carrier group emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter. Its flagship was larger than anything in the galactic databases. The smaller ships around it were not escorts. They were mobile factories. Veltar watched in amazement as they began producing ammunition and supplies while traveling between planets. They can sustain military operations indefinitely, he reported. Their logistics ships are also weapons platforms. By the third day, space around Earth looked like a metal storm. Ships moved in streams between planets, following traffic patterns that had clearly been planned years in advance. What had looked like civilian infrastructure revealed itself as military support systems. Mining stations began launching cargo containers full of refined metals. Agricultural worlds loaded food supplies onto ships that could feed an army for months. Civilian shipyards that had been building cargo haulers suddenly switched to producing missiles and armor plating. Their entire civilization is a war machine, Veltar whispered into his communicator. Everything they built was designed for this moment. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the Unconquered and watched his fleet form up around him. The first battle fleet was ready. 200 capital ships, 800 destroyers, and 4,000 support vessels. It was more firepower than most alien species possessed in their entire military, and it was just the advance force. Signal from Admiral Chen, his communications officer announced. The second fleet is 6 hours behind us. The third fleet launches tomorrow. Torres nodded. Each battle fleet was larger than the combined military forces of most galactic civilizations. But the humans were not taking chances with this mission. Begin hyperspace calculations, he ordered. All ships, prepare for fleet jump. The hyperspace jump that followed was unlike anything Veltar had ever seen. When galactic fleets entered hyperspace, they did so carefully. Ships jumped individually or in small groups, following safe routes that had been mapped for centuries. The human fleet jumped as one. Space around Earth suddenly filled with hyperspace portals. Not the small, careful openings that aliens used, but massive tiers in reality that could accommodate entire battle groups. The energy discharge from so many simultaneous jumps lit up the solar system like a second sun. In less than 10 minutes, the entire first battle fleet vanished into hyperspace. Veltar's ship followed at a safe distance, using its diplomatic status to track the human formation. What he saw during the journey terrified him. The humans did not just travel through hyperspace, they conquered it. Engineering ships deployed hyperspace beacons that created permanent navigation routes. Supply vessels established fuel depots at strategic points. Mobile shipyards began constructing forward bases from raw materials carried in the cargo holds of support ships. They are not just moving to the battle, Veltar realized. They are preparing for a long war. The human fleet stopped at the edge of the Vorthok-controlled territory and began what they called staging operations. Veltar watched as the humans transformed empty space into a military complex. Heavy cruisers took defensive positions around key hyperspace routes. Destroyers began patrol patterns that covered every possible approach vector. The massive carriers launched swarms of small craft that spread out like a metal web, watching everything. But it was the logistics operation that truly amazed Veltar. Human supply ships worked with mechanical precision, moving ammunition, fuel, and replacement parts between vessels. Mobile repair facilities could rebuild entire sections of damaged ships, medical vessels that could serve as small cities. Admiral Torres came a transmission from one of the scouting destroyers. "We have contact with enemy vessels." "Classification?" Torres asked calmly. "Vorthok bioships. Approximately 50 units, moving to intercept." Torres looked at his tactical display. 50 Vorthok ships had destroyed alien fleets of thousands. But Torres was not commanding an alien fleet. "All ships," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "This is Admiral Torres. Today we teach the galaxy why humans do not surrender. Remember your training. Trust your brothers and sisters. Fight for home." The response came from 4,000 human voices, speaking as one, for Earth and her children. Veltar shivered as he heard that battle cry. He finally understood what the Galactic Council had summoned. They had asked for backup from a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened humanity's war machine, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Vorthak had never encountered anything like humanity before. For 3 months, they had been the apex predators of the galaxy. Their bioships adapted to every weapon, learned from every battle, and consumed everything in their path. They had destroyed the finest fleets the galaxy could produce with contemptuous ease, so when their scouts detected the approaching human fleet, the swarm felt only confidence. Another primitive species to consume. More technology to absorb. More biomass to add to the collective. The lead Vorthak bioship was the size of a small moon, its organic hull rippling with borrowed alien technology. Tentacles that ended in plasma cannons writhed around its bulk. Its surface was covered in adaptive armor that had learned to resist every energy weapon in the galactic arsenal. Behind it came 49 smaller vessels, each one a living nightmare of biological engineering and stolen technology. Together, they had never tasted defeat. They were about to learn what failure meant. Admiral Torres watched the enemy approach on his tactical display. The Vorthak ships moved like living creatures, which they were. They flowed through space with an organic grace that no built ship could match. Their formations shifted and adapted as they advanced, responding to the human fleet's positioning. "They are beautiful," commented Commander Nash from the destroyer, relentless. "In a terrifying way." "Beauty won't save them," Torres replied. "All ships assume attack formation 7. Destroyers take point. Cruisers provide support fire. Capital ships prepare for close engagement." The human fleet shifted into battle formation with mechanical precision. Unlike the flowing adaptability of the Vorthak, human ships moved in rigid geometric patterns that had been perfected through centuries of warfare. Every ship knew exactly where it should be, exactly what its role was, exactly when to fire. The first weapons exchange happened at maximum range. The Vorthak opened fire with the energy weapons they had stolen from alien fleets. Plasma beams and quantum torpedoes lanced across space, targeting the lead human destroyers. It was the same pattern of attack that had destroyed galactic fleets. But human ships were not galactic ships. The destroyer Defiance took a direct hit from a plasma cannon that should have vaporized it completely. Instead, the beam struck thick armor plating and dissipated harmlessly. The ship's hull glowed red-hot for a moment. Then cooling systems brought the temperature back to normal. "Minimal damage to forward armor," reported Captain Williams from the Defiance. "All systems operational." Quote, the Vorthak bioship that had fired seemed confused. Its organic sensors swept the human destroyer, trying to understand why its weapon had failed. The plasma cannon had destroyed alien ships with ease. Why was this one still functional? The answer was simple. Human ships were designed to fight other humans. For thousands of years, humanity had waged war against itself with every weapon imaginable. Human warships were built to survive nuclear explosions, kinetic impacts, directed energy weapons, and chemical attacks. They were designed by people who knew that their enemies were clever, adaptable, and completely ruthless. The Vorthak discovered this when the human fleet returned fire. "All destroyers," Torres commanded. "Execute Hammer Protocol." 20 human destroyers fired simultaneously. Not with energy weapons, but with kinetic projectiles. Tungsten rods accelerated to significant fractions of light speed by magnetic railguns. Simple, primitive weapons that worked on the most basic principle in physics. If you hit something hard enough, it breaks. The Vorthak bioship tried to adapt. Its organic hull began shifting, growing new armor layers designed to deflect energy weapons. But kinetic weapons did not care about adaptive armor. The tungsten rods punched through the creature's defenses like bullets through paper. 20 holes appeared in the bioship's hull. The creature screamed across all frequencies as its internal systems ruptured. Green fluid that might have been blood leaked into space. "Target damaged but still functional," reported the tactical officer. "Adaptive systems are attempting to seal the breaches." "Secondary targets," Torres ordered. "All ships, free fire." What followed was not so much a battle as an industrial process. Human ships advanced in perfect formation, systematically destroying everything in their path. When Vorthak bioships adapted to tungsten rounds, the humans switched to depleted uranium projectiles. When the creatures developed defenses against kinetic weapons, human ships fired nuclear-tipped missiles. The Vorthak tried to use their greatest advantage, their ability to learn and adapt. but they had never faced an enemy that could change tactics faster than they could evolve defenses. Commander Sarah Price piloted her fighter through the chaos of battle, hunting smaller Vorthak vessels. Her ship was tiny compared to the bioships, but it carried enough firepower to threaten much larger targets. Wolfpack 7, she called to her squadron. I have a biofighter adapting to our weapons. Switching to incendiaries, the Vorthak fighter creature had learned to resist her plasma cannons and kinetic rounds, but it had no defense against the napalm-based weapons that human fighters carried for exactly this situation. The creature burst into flames and died, screaming. Confirmed kill, Price reported. These things burn real nice. Confirmed kill. On the flagship Unconquered, Admiral Torres coordinated the battle with calm efficiency. Human military doctrine was simple. Identify the enemy's strengths and find ways to make them irrelevant. Admiral, called his communications officer, the bioships are trying a new adaptation. They are growing thick carapaces to resist kinetic weapons. Confirmed, added the tactical officer. New armor is approximately 3 meters thick. Standard rounds are having minimal effect. Torres nodded. He had expected this. Signal the anvil and hammer. Deploy penetrator rounds. The 2 heavy cruisers acknowledged the order and opened their missile bays. The penetrator rounds they launched were not subtle weapons. Each one was essentially a small spacecraft designed for a single purpose, punching through heavy armor. The missiles accelerated toward their targets, their guidance systems locked onto the largest bioships. When they struck, they did not explode immediately. Instead, they burrowed through the thick carapaces like mechanical parasites, drilling deep into the creature's vital organs before detonating. The explosions that followed lit up the battlefield like small suns. Massive internal damage to primary targets, reported the tactical officer with satisfaction. Secondary explosions detected. They are dying from the inside, but the most devastating moment came when the Vorthak tried their ultimate adaptation. The largest bioship began consuming the wreckage of destroyed vessels, adding their mass and technology to its own body. It grew larger, sprouting new weapons and defenses taken from both human and alien designs. That is not good, commented Commander Nash. Torres smiled grimly. Actually, it is perfect. They just made themselves a bigger target. He opened a channel to the heavy carrier Terra's Wrath. Admiral Chen, you are cleared for extinction protocol. From the carrier's launch bays came something the galaxy had never seen before. Human nuclear weapons designed specifically for space combat. Not the crude devices that aliens imagined, but sophisticated fusion warheads with adaptive yields and multiple stages. The massive bioship detected the incoming missiles and tried to adapt its defenses, but there was no defense against what the humans called planet crackers, weapons designed to destroy targets the size of small moons. When the warheads detonated, the bioship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was the largest creature in space. The next moment it was expanding plasma and scattered atoms. The remaining Vorthak bioships faltered. For the first time in their existence, they faced an enemy they could not adapt to fast enough. An enemy that carried weapons for every situation. An enemy that fought not with elegant technology, but with brutal effectiveness. All remaining targets are attempting to retreat, reported the tactical officer. Negative, Torres said flatly. No survivors, no adaptation. Complete extinction. The human fleet pursued the fleeing bioships with relentless determination. There would be no wounded Vorthak returning to the swarm with knowledge of human tactics. There would be no opportunity for the enemy to learn from this battle. When the last bioship died in the fire of human weapons, space fell silent. Admiral Torres looked at his tactical display and nodded with satisfaction. 50 Vorthak bioships destroyed. 0 human vessels lost. It was not even a fair fight. But then, humans had never been interested in fighting fair. 3 months after the first battle, the Vorthak swarm was extinct. Not defeated, not driven back, extinct. Captain Veltar stood in the observation deck of his ship and watched human engineering teams dismantling the last Vorthak breeding station. The organic structure had once been beautiful in its alien way, growing like a coral reef in the darkness between stars. Now it was being methodically destroyed by crews wearing environmental suits, and carrying tools that could cut through living metal. "Sterilization complete," reported the human team leader over the communication channel. "No biological material remaining. Beginning construction of monitoring station." Bees. 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 Veltar had been following the human fleet for 3 months, documenting their campaign against the swarm. What he had witnessed was not warfare, as the galaxy understood it. It was extermination on an industrial scale. The humans had not simply defeated the Vorthak. They had hunted them. Every bioship, every breeding station, every spore cluster floating in deep space, all of it systematically located and destroyed. The humans had divided the infected regions into grid squares and cleared them one by one, like farmers harvesting a field. "They are thorough," Veltar murmured into his recorder. Thorough was an understatement. Human survey ships had mapped every infected system down to the smallest asteroid. Combat engineers had sterilized entire planets with weapons that Veltar could not identify. Medical teams had developed biological agents specifically designed to kill Vorthak organisms. The efficiency was terrifying. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of the Terra's Wrath and reviewed the final reports. Around her, the massive carrier's bridge hummed with activity as crew members coordinated the last phases of the cleanup operation. "Admiral Torres reports complete sterilization of Sector 7, announced her communications officer. "Admiral Kim confirms no biological traces in the outer colonies. "Admiral Volkov's heavy units have finished mining the hyperspace routes." Chen nodded. The humans had not only destroyed the Vorthak, they had made sure nothing like them could ever threaten the galaxy again. Key hyperspace routes now contained automated defense stations that would detect and destroy any unknown biological ships. Early warning networks spread across dozens of star systems, watching for signs of infection. "What about the diplomatic situation?" Chen asked. Her intelligence officer consulted his datapad. "Mixed reactions, ma'am. Some species are grateful. Others are concerned about our capabilities." Chen understood. The galaxy had asked for help and received a demonstration that humanity could have conquered them all whenever they chose. That was bound to make people nervous. "Any hostile responses?" "None, ma'am. Everyone is being very polite." Chen smiled slightly. Fear did have its advantages. The final briefing took place in the same chamber where the Galactic Council had first debated asking for human help. But everything had changed. The desperate panic of 3 months ago had been replaced by a nervous tension that filled the crystal halls like smoke. Ambassador Zethara sat in her usual position, but her eyes kept drifting to the new addition to the council chamber. A simple chair occupied by Admiral Chen. The human wore the same plain blue uniform she had worn to every meeting, but now it carried weight that made the elaborate robes of the alien ambassadors seem ridiculous. "The final count," General Kostar announced, "is 0 remaining Vorthak organisms detected in the galaxy. Complete extinction confirmed." The council members nodded, but there was no celebration. The cost of victory was sitting right in front of them, wearing a human face and showing no emotion whatsoever. "Admiral Chen." Vexron began carefully. "The Galactic Council wishes to express its gratitude for humanity's intervention." "You are welcome," Chen replied simply. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Everyone in the room knew that the balance of power had shifted permanently. The species that had once dismissed humans as primitive traders now knew the truth. Humanity had been politely waiting for an invitation to the galactic stage. "There are, of course, questions about the future," continued Vexron. "Trade agreements, territorial boundaries, military cooperation. I have prepared a proposal," Chen said, producing a data tablet from her uniform pocket. She activated it, and the chamber's holographic display showed a star map. But it was not the familiar map that the council was used to seeing. This one showed human ships patrolling trade routes, human bases monitoring strategic systems, human colonies expanding into previously unexplored regions. "These are our terms for continued galactic stability," Chen announced. "Open trade between all species, shared technology development, and mutual defense agreements." The terms were reasonable. More than reasonable. Actually, The humans were asking for trading rights and cooperative relationships, not tribute or territorial conquest. But everyone in the room understood the unspoken message. These were not negotiations. These were the new facts of galactic life. The patrol routes, Ambassador Thielara pointed out hesitantly, cover most major hyperspace lanes. Yes, Chen agreed. We will provide security for galactic commerce. Pirates and hostile forces will be discouraged. Discouraged. The word sent a chill through the chamber. Everyone had seen what human discouragement looked like. And if a species prefers to maintain its own security? Asked Ambassador Yilmoth. Chen's expression did not change. That is, of course, their choice. We will respect all territorial boundaries and established governments. But the implication was clear. Try to threaten galactic peace and face the same fate as the Vorthak. There is one more thing, Chen added, standing up from her chair. The human government has decided to establish a permanent embassy here on the council station. She gestured toward the door, where a woman in civilian dress entered. She was young, with dark hair and intelligent eyes that took in everything. This is Ambassador Sarah Martinez, Chen announced. She will represent human interests in all future council proceedings. The appointment of a permanent ambassador was significant. It meant that humanity was no longer pretending to be a minor species that occasionally traded with the galaxy. They were announcing their place as a major galactic power. Welcome, Ambassador Martinez, Vexron said formally. Thank you, Martinez replied with a smile that was warmer than anything Chen had shown. I look forward to working with all of you. As the session concluded, the alien representatives filed out in small groups, speaking in hushed voices. Veltar lingered, studying the human admiral who had overseen the destruction of the most dangerous threat the galaxy had ever faced. Admiral, he said quietly, may I ask you something? Chen looked at him with those cold, calculating eyes. Yes. Your fleet could have conquered the galaxy years ago. Why did you wait? Why pretend to be weak? For the first time, Chen's expression softened slightly. Captain Veltar, humanity learned long ago that power without purpose is destructive. We were not interested in ruling the galaxy. We were content to trade and learn. But now? Now the galaxy has seen what happens when peace is threatened. Chen replied. We will maintain that peace, whether others choose to cooperate or not. She walked toward the door, then stopped, and looked back at him. Tell me, Captain, do you think the galaxy is safer now? Veltar considered the question. The Vorthak were gone. Human patrol fleets were establishing order in systems that had been lawless for centuries. Trade was flowing more freely than ever before. Species that had been enemies for generations were now cooperating under the watchful eyes of human peacekeepers. Yes, he admitted. Much safer. Chen nodded. Then we have achieved our purpose. As the Admiral left the chamber, Veltar remained behind, staring at the star map that still showed human ships spreading across the galaxy. In 3 months, everything had changed. The primitive species that the Council had called for help had become the guardians of galactic civilization. But perhaps, he thought, that was what the galaxy had needed all along. Not rulers or conquerors, but guardians who would fight to protect others and ask for nothing in return except the chance to live in peace. The humans had answered the Council's call for backup. In doing so, they had saved the galaxy and claimed their rightful place among the stars. And somehow, despite everything he had witnessed, Veltar felt that the galaxy was in very good hands.